Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. So it's been a long time since we didn't do a webinar. So really excited to be here today. And I'm here with Nate on my side, and we're going to present you a webinar called "So We Heard Your e-commerce website was done on Black Friday." We'll explain why we came up with this idea. Hello, Nate. How are you?
Good. How are you? Glad
I'm
to be here.
fine. I'm fine. It's the evening here because we're based in Paris, France, and I think you are on the other side of the Atlantic, right?
Yes, I'm in America here, and it's just at the beginning of the afternoon.
Okay. And yeah, we have an exciting project for today. It's going to be a short webinar, so 20 minutes of presentation and then 10 minutes of questions. If you have questions during our presentations, feel free to ask them in the chat, or we also have like a questions module. So yeah, feel free to use it, and we'll get back to the questions at the end of the 20 minutes. So yeah, before we introduce ourselves and our company, so maybe a few words why we came up with this idea. So Black Friday was like months ago, and crashes are something that happened to everyone, to all companies in the world. And it's a big issue because it has a direct impact on your revenues and your brand image. And I'm not kidding when I'm saying it's actually it happened to everyone. If you do like a quick research and Google News, you will see like ton of articles about websites that actually crashed during last Black Friday. So it's something that normal, but there are solutions for it. Yeah, it's not something you should just wait until it happens. And it's what actually load testing does. And load testing is about anticipating this kind of situations and improving your applications in order to avoid crashes or even slowdowns in your application. The main takeaway of this webinar, and this is what we want to convince you today of, is that load testing is a journey. So it's a long process. What we will show you is that you can start simple and then go step by steps. It's the most important thing to do. And more especially, it's never too early to run load tests for your application. So you should start right now. And Black Friday, the next Black Friday is coming. It's in 11 months, and this is something you should prepare right now. So let's start this journey together. And it's something that we wanted this webinar. You can reproduce everything at home. So we will show you how to deploy an application with a service called Koyab. So it's a French company as well, and they were really nice and gave us this QR code. So I hope you can flash it to get $100 in credits for the services. So if you want to do it again on your own after the webinar, please you can use Koyab or and yeah, give them feedback. They're really cool. And yeah, after it, we're going to test it with Gatling Enterprise within minutes. And I will show you with our no-code interface how you can run a load test very quickly, and then how you can go further with our load test Xcode approach. Few words before we start to present both of our companies. I don't know if you want to start, Nate. Or
Yeah, I can start. I'm Nate. I'm a lead software engineer with the Theodo Group. We're a large custom software consultancy specializing in pretty much serverless, all things software, basically. If you have a problem, we can find a solution for it. We're also a Gatling implementation partner. We've worked on projects implementing load tests with Gatling.
And yeah, to present Gatling, so we're the editor of the open source solution Gatling, and we also edit the enterprise version of Gatling, which is called simply Gatling Enterprise. The idea is we wanted to change the way load testing was done on the market, and we came up with a load test Xcode approach. And the idea was really to integrate it in your development pipeline. We will talk about it more later. But yeah, we have a huge open source community. So we just reached, and that's big news for December, we just reached 20 million downloads. And you can find us in a lot of companies So we have approximately more than 100,000 companies using us on a daily basis. And we have different languages that we support for now, Java, Kotlin, Scala, to run your test. But we will see that you can also use a Nogon interface in order to run your first test. So yeah, Gatling and Theodo are now partners. So that's the other big news at the end of the year. So we recently launched our first our partner program in November, and Theodo is our first partner, official partner. We had our first customers in the US, so among them a US administration. So yeah, that's the beginning of long story between our two companies. So if you need help in the future with your load test to implement it and to automate your load test, that kind of things, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll put you in contact with Theodo so they can help you implement it.
Yep.
I mean, let's start. So we're going to run load test again an e-commerce website, which is called Demo Store. So if you're familiar with Gatling, you know that on our website we have an e-learning platform called the Gatling Academy, and there is a module about load testing an e-commerce website. And this is the website that we provide you with in order to run your first load test. So let's take a quick look how it looks like. So it's not really a fancy website, but I mean it's functional. You can get all your products. You can have a specific look at the product. You can add to cart. You can change your category. You can also log in as a user. So yeah, very basic website, and this is what we're going to test. If you want to do it at home, you can deploy it on your own. So you can find it on our GitHub. So you will find all the sources you need in order to do so. And the service I chose is called Koyab, and to show you how it looks like, so you can have deploy very, very quickly your application on the data center you want. And this is how it's working. So you just choose your deployment method. You choose the GitHub repository you'd like to deploy. Please make sure that you choose a Maven build branch in order to deploy it. Then you choose Dockerfile, and you choose whatever region you need to. So I chose Germany here, and then you can deploy the application. So since I'm going to jump immediately in the test, I'm not going to wait until it deploys. So I have another instance deployed, and this is the one, and we are going to test it right now. So this is Gatling Enterprise. And this is the list of your different simulation, but we will create a new simulation together to show you that you can do it very quickly. We have the ability for you, if you don't have a Gatling simulation ready yet, you can actually start without coding. So the idea is, in order to start, is to just here write the website URL you want to test. So we're going to test this one, and you can add different kind of requests. So for instance, this is when they arrive on the website, and we want them to navigate through the different categories. So we can go in the for him category then, and put it as a second URL. Then we can click on a specific product. It's over there, yeah. Specific product. Then we can switch back to another category and click again on a new product. So I can get to the Unix category, add it as a new request, and then one last request, and we're good. Click on this one. So you can see at the same time that it's generating code on the right side of the screen, but we get back to that later. And then you choose how many seconds you'd like to have between your requests. So it's really important when you do load test, you want to reproduce what happens in real life, in reality. So the idea is not just to do all the requests as one, but just to reproduce a real user's behavior. So we can have something like 3 seconds between all the requests. And then you choose what we call the injection profile. So this is where you tell how many users you like to have and how they inject in your system. So to start, we're going to start with a capacity test. We're going to do it like for 1 minute. And we're going to start with 1 user and go up to 20 users per second. Then there are different things you can configure as well, but we'll get back to that later. And then when you're good, so you give it a simulation, so Gatling and Theodo, and you're good to go. So we're going up. Yeah, we're good to go. We're going to run the simulation. So it takes approximately 30 to 1 minute to run the test. So let me get back to maybe a quick explanation of what load testing does. So the idea is to describe what your users are going to do in your application. Then we have what we call load generators, which are deployed on one or multiple servers, and they will generate this request in order to reproduce real-life traffic on your application. So basically, you can see here that it will send a request to one of your endpoints, and then wait for the response and measure the response time between the request and the response. Then you get reports that you can analyze and investigate. And based on this report, you can improve your applications. And the idea is to do tests over and over in order to investigate where your potential bottlenecks could be in your application. But let's get back to the test itself. So you can see the first metrics coming up live in the interface. So basically, you got different kind of metrics here. So first of all, you can see the request and responses. So you see for the moment in green, we only have OK responses, so everything is working well. On the right side, you've got the distribution of response time, and this is what's also very important with load testing, the idea to see what kind of response time your slowest users are experiencing. And by slowest users, I mean it could be your 5%, 10% slowest users. And you can zoom in, zoom out. And to give you an idea, if I take the 95th percentile, that's the response time the 5% of my slowest users are experiencing in my application. You can see here we have a value for the maximum concurrent virtual users in our system of 216, and this is something you can have more details about if you look here at this specific charts. So you can see there are 3 in order to define injection profiles. You've got your users' arrival rate, so this is the number of users that are injected in your system, and your users' termination rates. This is actually when your users have performed all the requests and then they're leaving. And if you combine these 2 charts, you've got like the number of concurrent users you've got at a specific moment in your system. And you can see here we have a peak of 216 users. Of course, there are many different metrics that you can see. You got metrics about TCP connections, about DNS resolutions, and you got also metrics about your load generators. So for the moment, we are only using 1 load generator, but it's always really important to check that you're not saturating a load injector because it can have an impact on your metrics. But before we talk with Nate about things you can implement, we just ran a simple load test, and now we're going to make the application crash. So in order to do it, I already did the simulation, and now I don't want to do, so I want to do the same kind of test, but I want to go up to 10,000 users per second, and we're going to do it for 360 seconds. And now it's time to launch it again. So again, it's going to take a few moments. won't have time to elaborate on all the injection profile, but just to so you know, to give you a brief overview, but you've got different kind of injection profiles.
Mm-hmm.
You've got capacity tests, so this is where you want to see when is the breaking point of your application. You've got stress tests to see what is the behavior of your application and when everyone is connecting at the same time. And SOC test is to find memory leaks, for instance, in your application. So we're going to see the test, but maybe Nate, what kind of things you can improve with load tests? It's questions we've got actually a lot from our users.
So when you're writing load tests, the main thing that you're looking for is basically ways that you can preempt situations like bringing your site down. What you're looking to improve upon generally is overall performance of your application. Do you have slow API calls? Are you running out of database connections? Do you need to scale up your servers that you're using for hosting? These are generally the things that you're looking for when you're creating load tests. One of the benefits that Gatling has is the ability to add tests as in your continuous integration pipeline. So let's say you're adding new API calls, or you're doing some maintenance on API calls. You can actually have Gatling set up to run a performance test suite on the changes that are being made to make sure that you're not introducing degradation in performance. And it also allows you to obviously continually monitor the performance of the site. So if some configuration has changed in your hosting account, you can preemptively catch that.
And you can see live actually that things are not so great on the side of our application. So you see a lot of RAID. So what's interesting to see is we have a few requests that are okay, but the vast majority, they're just failing. And you can also see in the distribution of response time, even for the requests that can pass in a system, we have a lot of timeouts, and it's getting, well, it's not getting better here. So you can see we have like 5% of the OK requests that have response time above 10 seconds. So it's very, very long. I think if you try ourselves to accept the website, yeah, we get like an error. So yeah, for the vast majority of the users, you're not able to access the website. Let me show you. I'll talk to you about the monitoring of your load injector. And so here we're generating a lot of traffic, and this is this moment where you could actually need more than one load injector, because the response time that you can have on your injector side, they can impact directly the response time you're measuring here. So it's always important to always check. And if you need more load injectors, you can easily add more load injectors when configuring a test. So yeah. So probably at some point we won't get just a simple error message. I think, yeah, for the moment we get that message. Maybe come back later. Mm-hmm. Anything we can tell our viewers today, so what they can get and benefits when they're doing the testing, what kind of things they can improve starting from here, because actually, and when we prepared this website, we told ourselves, with this kind of first report, we can't do much with that. So what are you saying to your customers when they did this first test on the application?
Yeah. So let's say you run this first test. You've got a very basic test. All it's doing is hitting the site, and you kind of need to know more about what's actually going on, right? So my main suggestion is first and foremost, add some monitoring to your application if it doesn't already exist. You can use tools like AWS X-Ray. Datadog, Umigo, to add some good observability and tracing into your application. And what that will allow you to do is see what happens when we hit that one glasses case site. What external API calls are being made, what calls to the database are being made, what things are timing out, what errors are happening in the application, and really allows you to get a good picture on what is actually happening behind the scenes. Because if you're looking at this, all you're really seeing is we're hitting this endpoint and we're having a really, really long load time for the application. The second thing that you can do is write more tests, test specific parts of the application. So right now we're hitting just the website page. Maybe we want to test actual API calls so that we can see what the page or what the product page API is doing, what the individual product API is loading, and see if there's any issue with those API calls. Third, make sure that you're logging as much as possible. When all is said and done, you're relying on logs to see what is happening in the application. These are the three main things that you can do to get a better picture of like what is actually happening in the application, so that you can identify next steps on what actions you need to take.
I think also something that's really interesting. I think it comes up also with Kayib with some metrics, some monitoring metrics. So yeah, it's always good to have both combined when you want to investigate your website performances. Yeah, can see it's not going well right now for the application. We had actually a lot of materials to share with you, a lot of topics we could cover, but we jump to the questions. Because I see that a lot of messages popping in, and but yeah, few takeaways before we switch to the questions. And I think that's our main message here is, as we told at the beginning of the webinar, it's the beginning of a journey when you run your first test. So write more tests, as Nate said. Improve your scenario. So we did something very, very simple right now, but you can improve and do something really, really close to reality for your scenarios and for your injection profiles as well. And test more often, test regularly, and automate. So that's when you get the most value from lot testing, when you manage to implement continuous testing in your development pipeline. So yeah, we talked during 23 minutes, so wanted to limit it to 20 minutes. But yeah, thank you again, everyone, and let's jump to the questions. And yeah, let me check. Let's get back to the beginning. So is it possible to test APIs via the no-code way? Yes, it's possible. So anything that, of course, it shouldn't be should be accessible to Gatling Enterprise, but you can test not only a website but your APIs as well. Is one script one user's behavior? No, you can actually. That's a really good question. You can, in a single simulation, have multiple scenarios and multiple injection profiles. Does Enterprise or free version have any limitations for number of parallel users? There isn't any limitation. The only limitation you will get is a number. Is linked to your load generator itself. So if you have one load generator at some point, depending on the instance you're using, depending on the complexity of your simulation, you won't be able to generate as many users as you have in mind, but you can add multiple load injectors. It's really straightforward with the Gatling Enterprise. With the open source version, is something you have to do manually. How do we maintain consistent number of virtual users for run? So not sure to understand the question, but basically what we define with Gatling is a user's arrival rate for what we call an open model for your load, meaning that people are arriving. This is what you can control for your test. What you don't control is the number of concurrent users in your system. It depends how much time they need to perform all the action or the request and then leave the system. But there is something which is called the closed workload model, and it's especially useful for website that implemented a queue in order to deal with a massive connection at the same time. So you're able to control the number of virtual users in your system. That's really 22,000 users running the script. I would say we generated more than that in our last test. You can see we generated 1.8 million users, and I'd say we had a maximum.
Yeah, there was a peak concurrent graph down below, and I think it was around 400K.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the number of users we were able to generate during that test. I got a question from Dmitry Karasev. Had to collect custom metrics, for example, in some protocols. There are streams that send events after some simple request was sent. I need to track time between simple request and event that arrives in the stream. Okay, I need more inputs in that. Depends on the protocol that you use. But yeah, with if the question is if you can customize your reports, that's not something you can do. But there are various things you could eventually do for your use case. But I would need more inputs to do that. Is it possible to use gRPC protocol in Gatling? And the answer is yes. We have community support, and then we're just about to release an official support for gRPC. And your last question, Dimitri, about how to better control the number of requests per second using virtual users. Not sure what.
There's there's a ton of stuff you can do with both the scenario and the load injector itself. So the scenario, you can add wait times in between each request if that's what you're trying to do to simulate a period of time passing between an API call. And then in the load injector itself, you can there's a lot of customization you can do with how users are created. So you only want to create 5 users over a 10-second period. Every second, you can set that up in the load injector itself. But based on your question, it looks like modifying the scenario might be what you're after.
Yeah, I got 2 very interesting questions. So first one is, how does a no-code solution look like for a login scenario or an API test with API key authentication? And the second one is, when does Gatling considers a web page is fully loaded? So the no-code interface, it's something really new that we released this year. It's to handle very simple use case right now. When you want to go further, you can switch to our load test as code approach. And the idea, if you want to go further, how we can test this for very specific website, but with a more complex test. So you can go to the Gatling Academy, and this is actually, we have a GitHub repo with more complex tests to test the application and to show you 2 things. For instance, you can use checks in your simulation. So checks are made to either see if actually the page was loaded after your initial request, or you can also fetch a value that was generated, for instance, when you arrive on the home page. And you can see here we got a value with a CSS selector, and we saved it for later to use it in our next request. So yeah, you can do pretty much whatever you like when scripting a scenario. And maybe to give you one last example, we use what we call feeder in Gatling. And there are different kinds of feeders. You can have either CSV feeder. For instance, this one I'm showing, not sure if we can really see it with my screen sharing. Maybe I'll try to zoom in a little bit up. Yeah. So you can see I got a really simple CSV file with username and password, and you can use this kind of feeders to make sure that all the users you're generating, they have the specific login and passwords and process the login process. So we also have other kind of feeders. I'm not going to go through everything, but just to show you, for instance, this is JSON feeder, and you can see here is a feeder for different kind of products. For instance, you don't want to have all your users going exactly at the same pages, and you want them to browse different kinds of products. And this is why these kind of feeders are very useful, because different users can have different pages to look at.
And there's one last question from Felix. What is the best approach to handle asynchronous API calls, like waiting until the expected response is returned? Generally, for asynchronous API calls, you would need to implement some sort of polling to check on the response and wait until, again, the expected response is returned. Do you have anything extra to add there, PH?
Sorry, your question was for me, or?
Yeah, do you have anything extra to add about implementing some sort of polling system to monitor an asynchronous job?
Not to understand your question. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So Felix asked how to best test asynchronous jobs. So, for example, you hit an API call that queues a job, you get a success response, but want to wait until that asynchronous job is finished before proceeding in the scenario.
Yeah, I don't have anything to share right now on my screen, but yeah, it's definitely something you can do. Have like this kind of asynchronous calls, and get some elements from the different responses and reuse it again, etc. So yeah, that's something, and that's the beauty of course of the load test as code approach. As really, you can use Java or Scala or Kotlin or whatever your programming language is to do something very customizable, and use your you can also create user session and that kind of thing. So yeah, the possibilities are limitless. Okay. I don't see any more questions, but I think there is one person who is typing. Maybe if you like a few seconds, but otherwise, yeah, definitely. So the question is there a way to play with the example demoed and within the Gatling cloud as a trial? So yeah, when we create a Gatling Enterprise account, you get like 60 credits. So you can run 1 hour of test for free. Feel free to contact us if you have like a specific proof of concept you have in mind. We'd love to help you with that. And if you want to deploy on your own, so we have a GitHub repo with all the sources you need to deploy the demoed website. So if you want to do it at home, please do it. That's also what we wanted to do with this webinar, is to help you do it again on your own. And after, feel free to take a look at our Gatling Academy course about load testing e-commerce web shop. if you want to go further and do more complex tests.
Yeah, the Gatling GitHub also has several different code setups as well. If you were looking to play more with load test as code versus no code, that you can look at and pull for examples.
Yeah. And yeah, that's it for us. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your questions. If you like this kind of format, again, this is the first time we experiencing it, so feel free to let us know. And if we have plenty of materials more to share, plenty of use cases to do during this kind of webinars. So yeah, feel free to share your feedback with us. And yeah, see you next time for another webinar. Thank you again, everyone, and see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.